Thank you very much. It's early in the morning, but as we think about these perks that I'm going to talk about, you have to come up with a new acronym every time you do a project, right? That's one of the first phases of any project. The last phase of any project is punishment of the uninvolved. That's supposed to be funny, but the discussions, as far back as I know, probably go back more than 2 years, probably before Jack left, because I think some of the files we inherited about people getting some random thoughts together dated back longer than that. Some of the reasons why we thought we needed new ones was that the ones we had, which were very old, I think Steve's going to give us a lot of history on that in a few minutes, but they've been around a long time and were certainly antiquated. The other reason was we wanted to make sure we had WinLink capabilities in all of our drop kits, and those didn't, particularly HF. I think we only had one old kit that had HF capabilities. Otherwise, they were UHF, VHF only, and were typically old commercial radios that had been retired from public service, and we inherited things like Kenwood units particularly. Bill Jorgensen, who just retired as the county Office of Director of Public Safety, was instrumental, obviously, in agreeing to fund us. So when you have a piggy bank you can work with, most of you can come up with good ideas and do things very, very rapidly. So a working group was formed. I agreed to serve as the chair. And as I said, when he said, I'm responsible for the design, this was a collective effort, believe me. I'm not exactly the one. Other members, every group needs 2 Jeffs, so we were able to take care of that. But you can see the list of others: Ed, Randy, Hoop, Gary, Tim, Sean Cothran, who's the county IT director and also a ham operator, was involved with us, as was Bill, K4COM. The meetings began, and first thing we said was, what is it we want to do? Most of the time when you start a project is, what is your objective? And so we'll talk about that in just a minute. And then once we decided on the capabilities, then and only then would we then develop the list of equipment and begin working on it. So we first determined, as Jeff numero uno over here said a moment ago, the primary responsibility of this group by mutual consent many years ago was we're here to serve our served agency. So what is it that the county wanted us to do as their servant? And so Bill was instrumental in helping us understand when it says auxiliary communications or AUXCOM on that room, that's what it means, auxiliary. We are a supplement to, we're not a primary. We're an auxiliary or a secondary. The old ham motto, when all else fails, the hams are here. That's our purpose. And so that's what we did. Secondly, it was to enable us to deploy quickly within the county to any scene. If you remember back in the days of one of the hurricanes, when we had real shelters, Trey, at the Red Cross Center, up here at the Baptist Church on Franklin Road, south of Moores Lane. And we want to be able to get there, set up, get operational, be able to operate on our own for a certain relatively short period of time, and then send out calls for help if we need 35 more batteries, or we need a generator, or we need a different antenna. We're close enough in this metro area that we can probably get additional help there. So these, while they are portable, they are heavy. But they could be a lot more heavy if it had everything that you'd want, okay? So, but they can, and literally, we have set it up and been on the air in less than 30 minutes. The old HF kits didn't have, the old drop kits did not have HF, so that was another requirement. Every kit would have HF and allow us to be, again, so we could operate without having access to repeaters if the all of them have portable generators or standby generators at the tower sites, but worst comes to worst, we've had a cyber attack with a magnetic wave and it's destroyed all the equipment, whatever. HF should still work. VHF, UHF, Obviously, we want that. We have an excellent system of repeaters in the area. We want to be able to use those. DMR is still lightly used. We're still we have a solution looking for a problem. And so DMR is there. Let's put it in there. It's very good, particularly for tactical support because of the dual time slots. You can multiple frequencies, talk groups. We can use that. And then obviously WinLink. Bill Jorgensen and others became believers in WinLink through the efforts of Steve and others in the early days, in the early 2000s. And so we want WinLink capabilities. Again, when you're out at that shelter site, if you need to pass a list of needs, you can do it easily with an email versus trying to do it verbally on the repeater or on HF. And then support, last thing is whatever we need it for. We can use these things to support a bike ride or other public events. So the equipment to see. Now let's see, how many people do we have here this morning? Probably 40 or 50. And every one of you knows how to do something. You have your ideas about equipment you like, antennas that work. And so we started off, a lot of people had lots of ideas. That's what hams do. Oh, I've tried this, it works great. Yep. Well, there are that many different opinions, but we did have to come to some decisions pretty quickly because we couldn't have every single solution in this one box. And so we worked carefully, and people argued, and we cajoled each other, twisted each other's arms, and then came to a consensus. Early decision was the HF radio. Which HF we had? Steve and others had been big believers with the Kenwood radios, the old HFs, TS480 series. It had detachable head. It could go, there was one model that had 200 watts in it. Those are no longer manufactured. They're still great radios. We have a ton of them in service in the county system. But then since those were not available, we had to come up with another radio, and we settled on the ICOM 7300. ICOM says they've sold over 100,000 of those units since its introduction. It is the baby, people call it the baby 7610. For $1,100. Sometimes they go on sale. You can catch them on holidays or at Hamfest for $1,000. It is a great radio. Has a built-in sound card, so we can use it for VARA WinLink. And it eliminates the need of a $1,800 PACTOR modem, which shares the public service frequencies. You used PACTOR 4, which was much faster than we could run on ham bands back in the day, which is now not a problem. Again, thanks to Steve Waterman's efforts and others. But it eliminates the need for that. VARA works better than PACTOR. And so again, with that built-in sound card, that eliminates one more factor. Good form factor. The Mars modification or shares modification. Almost every one of our ham radios can be modified to work outside our ham frequencies. They receive fine. You can receive all up and down from 3 to 30, but they won't transmit on every frequency. If you go in there somewhere on the internet, you can find how to modify your radio so it will work. You do it at your own risk, and you don't need to be operating on frequencies you're not authorized to. But we are authorized with this kit, with this radio, because of the county. We have a shares call sign assigned to each one of our kits, and that shares call sign, we can use the shares frequencies for WinLink. And there's WinLink post offices, RMSs, that are set up all over the country and available to us on those frequencies. Now, why do we want to use shares? Well, it's less crowded. Have you ever tried to use WinLink on the ham frequencies? Sometimes it's very busy, and you have to wait your turn. With the shares frequencies, there's all sorts of choices, and very rarely do you run into a situation where they're busy. Okay, the VHF, UHF, quickly we settled on the Yaesu FTM 500. Again, it has both the Yaesu digital as well as just FM. Nice form factor. The speaker is built into the head. Yaesu has just introduced this week, I think, all of their what used to be the 8800 and the 7900, all those old radios, they've now introduced that line of radios with essentially the FTM 500 head on it with the speaker built in. So when you look into all those new FM radios that they've got, it's the same old radio, new control head. We wanted WinLink capability to use our, we have a VHF node at Trinity Tower off of Clovercroft Road. And so we have a second external sound card in the kit, lets us use VHF email. And we also put the Anytone DMR radio. That, again, because there are probably more Anytones in the group than anything else. Obviously, we had to make decisions on a myriad. When you start building a list of all the little things you want in there, it just adds and adds and adds. And so we came up with, and I'll go over some of those in a few minutes. Antennas. We came up with a little 2-meter 440 J-pole. Can you undo that tab? Velcro. I'm trying to work without reading my notes. So. Okay. This is a J-pole antenna. This is the antenna, this from right here. It's 440 and 2 meters, made out of ladder line. Somebody sells these on the internet. Very lightweight, and then this is a pigtail of coax you plug in. This antenna would be used for our FTM 500. Very lightweight. We got a very lightweight push-up pole. Get it up in the air 20 feet and tap every repeater in the county. So, yeah. Oh yeah, and here's an item you wouldn't think. A little shower curtain. So it hooks onto the top of the pole and holds it up. I thought that would get at least a smile. Come on. Good gracious. All right. Now, HF antenna. This would be where you could spend days ad nauseum. Everybody's got their idea about an antenna, believe me. But we came up with a random wire that's not so random. You've probably seen publications. Here's the length of wire you should use that would be the most resonant on the most frequencies. If you want to use one wire on a bunch of different frequencies, here are the lengths of wire you should use. So when we say random, it's not so random. At the bottom, you can go 29 feet, 35 and a half, 41, 58, 71, 84, 107. So how long would we, if we wanted to pick one, where would we pick? We started off, we tried the 58 foot. And we ran an SWR sweep, and it wasn't as good as this one. Then we tried the 71, and as you can see, you probably can't see, but the peak, where the blue goes up, the peak is about 3.2 on the SWR reading. What does that mean? The worst SWR from about 3.5 megahertz all the way to 16 megahertz, and all through there would be where our shared frequencies fall right outside the ham area. The worst SWR we're going to encounter is 3.2. So running 30 watts or 40 watts doing WinLink, SWR is not too terrible of an issue. Well, we've got a tuner in the box, an LDGA tuner. You could even probably not use anything and it would work. But with only 3.2, even the internal tuner in the 7300 would tune it or match it. It's a matching, it's not a real tuner. So we settled on a 71-foot wire, which could be stretched out from the ground up to a tree. We've got a 20-foot pole, go up to the 20-foot pole, over to a tree as an inverted L, and go up to the pole and over back to the ground as an inverted V. If you don't have anything, put it in the bushes, whatever you need to do to get on the air. Okay? So the 71-foot wire. And notice we said 9-to-1 unun. Now here's an item you probably wouldn't think you'd need in a kit, but this is a Tupperware box to keep and protect the 9-to-1 unun. I don't even get no attaboys. Come on, the committee worked hard. The committee, yes, Steve.
What's 4 to 1, 9 to 1?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So here is the SO239. You screw your coax into it. Got that. This is the ground lug. But on this end, you have not one, but two. And the important thing is, if you work on this sometime, don't ever use both of them, okay, at the same time. But this is a 9 to 1 unun, and it's also a 4 to 1. So if you were using a different kind of antenna that 4 to 1 is a better match, then use it. But we recommend the 9 to 1 here. This is made by Ballon Designs, which is well known. They're very reliable, heavy duty equipment. And so we came up with the combo.
It comes with a waterproof case.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with a waterproof case.
Yeah, I borrowed one of my wife's Tupperware to make sure it would fit. Then we ordered some. Come on, you guys. Okay, so then once we had made the major equipment decisions, then we made the lists and we checked them twice and we kept adding things, and then we had to go to different vendors and get the prices, yada, yada, yada. Began arriving in the spring. We put our first kit together and again went outside here, threw it up in a tree, and we made contacts with WinLink post offices in about 6 or 7 states with that antenna. So worked very well. Oh, let me mention to you, and I know none of you will ever need this because no ham that's respectable ever looks at instructions, right? But in every kit, just in case you've never used an ICOM or the there are good documentation, even lists of frequencies. And by the way, Trey, there is a second radio in there. That DMR radio also has a zone for all VHF and UHF. So it works. And the microphone for the Kenwood radio is under the counter. So, see, that's why we need instructions, right? We ought to have a little cheat sheet so people would know where the microphone is.
So Hilton, you're telling me there's not a laminated card in there that doesn't tell you that?
Here's a card. If you need to use the Anytone DMR radio and you wonder, what do those P buttons do? Those function buttons. Here's your cheat sheet. All right, so there's the finished product. We have a drawer for the computer. Again, we debated whether to add that in there because it added weight. But the computer's in the little pull-out drawer. We have an issue of keeping those things charged, but we'll face up to that. And then we got the deal of a lifetime. We first tried a canvas bag with all of our miscellaneous parts, the antennas, the unun, everything was within a canvas bag because we had these 2 long poles in there too. We needed the length, but it was not good. It was not being a hard case, number one, and then it would move around and bounce around. So we went to Home Depot. Shall we tell them the deal we got?
Oh, gosh. Please.
So 3 of us met over there at 7:30 one morning and went in there, and so we asked the clerks, is there a manager that we could talk about maybe getting a little discount because these are about $139? Yeah. And so finally, little manager, we told him who we were, what we're doing, building the projects for the county, and he said, I'll tell you what, if you'll buy one, I'll give you one. So we want 4, so we'll buy 2 and you give us 2, right? Correct. Well, I didn't notice, but they had about 30 over on the side, and underneath it had a price of like, what, $29? $29. We get up to the cash register and the manager says, she rang it up at the $139. He said, no, the price is $29. So anyway, we paid $58 for all 4. and I said, you better go change that price because if word gets out in our group, you'll be mobbed this afternoon. So this is a much better, it's rigid, heavy duty, and with wood rollers. Yeah. Another thing we put in there, let me show you Anybody know what that is? Line fill. Well, I don't want you to answer. Hush. It's a choke balun. And why do we want that?
To reverse to stop common mode currents flowing in the outside of the coax.
Yeah. Yeah, the antenna we're using, that random wire, is going to try to use and will use the shield of your coax from the antenna back to the radio as a counterpoise. And this filters out that RF and keep you from getting back into your radio and causing interference or shutting your radio down. You get all sorts of weird things going on. So,
Hilton, on that unknown that you're using, do you put a ground wire running off of the unknown?
oh yeah, counterpoise. Yes. Oh yeah, we've got a 50-foot counterpoise and a couple of 16-footers. You can put it works okay with one. Obviously, the more you'd put on, if you're going to be out there a month, you'd put more. Yep, yeah, put your counterpoise and your antenna. It'll still try to use the coax. Other details, we've got the West Mountain radio, power gates. The new model's called the Epic. For some reason, they were in short supply. We could find only one with the little power poles on the upper side, and the other had them on the side. And then the five port distribution panel. The thing about the new Epic power gate is it will charge the lithium iron sulfate batteries, not just the old lead acid. And so we have the Bio-NO 20 amp hour. We even have, as you see the little red bag there, that's 100 foot of arborist throw line with a weight. Get your line over the tree, get your antenna up in the air. Another thing is the drive-on tire mount. This is a flagpole mount, AKA flagpole ham radio pole mount. And the reason we selected this one, it's lightweight aluminum, is it does come apart and the pole will screw on. Try that. That got a laugh, didn't it? See, it's not easy either. But it does screw in there, I promise you. That was the reason we selected that one. It comes apart and fits easier and you carry back. Summary, we now have what we think is state-of-the-art equipment. Should last us a long time. We can support our served agency. We can support ham activities. Now, training is necessary. What we're studying, we've been talking about, is maybe one morning a month, we will set up in a room here and test one of our perks every month. So every perk will get tested at least 3 times a year. But invite you, if you want to come by with us, get checked out on them yourself. So, any comments from the group that worked on it, or questions from the floor?
And with the counterpoise, you have a 71-foot antenna.
We threw in a 50-footer. If you read materials on counterpoises, the moment you throw a counterpoise on the ground, now, Tim, you're the technician, but as I understand it, it detunes it immediately. So if you want to have it exactly the right, but we're doing multiple frequencies again. But a 50-footer works well. If you put as little as 16 feet, it'll usually work on most. You need 1/10 of a wavelength on the lowest frequency you're operating.
And I keep my counterpoise off of the ground. So right now I've got mine running through some holly trees.
Yeah.
But you can also get, like for Tractor Supply Company, they have electric fence posts that are insulated with white plastic. You just drive one of those, 50 feet away from where your ground is, and then run the line to that and keep it even just 3 feet off the ground.
Yeah, we chose not to do that, again, for safety reasons. You're out in an open place. If you're going to be there longer, you can put them, you can elevate your radios. But I've had a vertical at my house. I put in like 60 radials, but they're all in the ground. I mean, on top of the ground, 1 inch. I mean, just lay on the grass. Other comments? Yeah.
For WinLink, you use a laptop?
Yeah, there's a laptop in it.
Okay, what's the power to that? Is it a just battery, normal internal battery, supplemental power?
That's an interesting question. We have obviously a battery in the PC itself, but these are old PCs that we got right now, so the battery life's not long. We're going to put a DC power supply for each computer that will also plug into your DC power.
Okay.
And again, we get out there, we recognize we're going to have more power. If we're going to be there more than 4 or 5 hours, you're probably going to put out a call, bring us a generator or.
Could also mention that we have the outlet strip and cord in there in case there's 110 volts available.
Yeah, if you've got 110, we've got a multi-outlet power strip with a big 50-foot extension cord, but you may need another extension cord. So, but we had to limit it at some point. So there's an extension cord. There's a multi-outlet power strip.
You got a bathroom in there too?
There's not a bathroom. Well, you can empty the equipment out and.
That's what the Tupperware is for, isn't it?
I want to make a recommendation. That the purpose of that antenna is to be non-resonant on any frequency and not a half wave so that you're not voltage fed. I recommend taking the length of the antenna, adding 5% and making that the counterpoise if you're just going to use one. It doesn't have to be under the antenna, it can be anywhere, but it's a mirror balance for what you're doing.
My wire that's 173 feet long, it has a 173 foot counterpoise that runs out through that retention pond.
Yeah, if you go to the
Counterpoise is the same length as the wire.
if you go to WSM radio tower, they operate on a single frequency. The vertical part, 600 feet or whatever it is, resonant quarter wave on whatever their frequency. Then they've got 120 radials. They're all the same length. If you were going to be on one frequency, yada yada, you would do that. Again, we just went with something that works acceptably to do what we want to do. If we were going to be there permanently, we'd do something different.
Well, you want it to be frequency agile because you're moving frequencies on your wind link.
Agile, hostile, and mobile. Any other comments or questions?
I think back to John's point, there are little laptops that are 12 volt power, which would be really handy to if you're running off of solar or battery operated.
Yep. It's funny how we had all the budget we needed for radios. We had no budget for computers. So yeah, we're aware of all that, but we were a little bit hamstrung on budget there. All right, nothing else. I bid you adieu and thank you very much.